From prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. Welcome to Creature Guide Live Daily News. So let's get started with the first article, or let's put out the first article. Anyway, so the articles will be randomly thrown at me, and I have not viewed them. Okay, so let's get started. From buckrail.com, Wyoming Wetland Society releases 9 swan cygnets in Yellowstone. Um, okay. This is not your average reintroduction into, at least I'm guessing it's a reintroduction into Yellowstone. I'm not too familiar with the specific waterfowl. So let's take a look. Members of the Wyoming Wetland Society team, Yellowstone National Park, and the Wyoming Game and Fish Department partner to release 9 trumpeter swans in the park on Wednesday. So, Jackson, Wyoming, 9 baby. Okay, so according to WWS program manager Bill Long, 6 cygnets were released on Alum Creek, which is a repeat location for releasing swans from the captive breeding program. Okay, so apparently this has been going on for a while, so this is interesting. I'm guessing that they're indigenous or native to the region. Another 3 cygnets were released on a lake in the Lamar Valley area, which has not been a past release location before. I'm kind of shocked that they were releasing swans in that area. I guess I forgot also within the Lamar Valley that you have certain water systems. I just, it's having to remember that it's not just an open plain, an area where grizzly bears feed on moths, especially, this is probably towards the end of when they would. Anyway, so let's see. Swans have not lived in that area for over 50 years. It went really well. There was a good crowd of people, 35 or 40 there to watch the release. So on the side, we have 3 of the swan cygnets. This release is part of an ongoing effort to reintroduce and increase territorial pairs of the species in the historic habitat. In 1986, WWS collaborated with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to create the captive breeding program. The initiative ultimately prevented the need to list trumpeter swans as a threatened species in the area under the Endangered Species Act. The swans each have a yellow and black tarsal band on one leg with an identifying code. If any of the swans are seen, the public is asked to report the identifying band at reportband.gov. When the swans eventually migrate to their destination will be unknown to the agencies.
I just thought this would be fun to put up.
Yeah, I definitely haven't been expecting this. Let's see. So, any reported sightings will assist in learning more about the bird's habits. One of the released swans also has a white tracking collar. This is interesting. You can see in the far corner, they've got their beaks taped up, I think. Oh, okay. I mean, I'm guessing that they weren't, while they were raised, they weren't really around people very much. So, it's very likely that they would be quite aggressive. So he's also got a collar around his, or some sort of a tag around his leg. I'd like to emphasize for people to look for those leg bands. The best time to look for the bands is when the swans are on land, loafing, or when they're tip feeding. Guessing is that's when they're in the water feeding on different types of insects, mosquito larvae. Okay,
I thought it
so
was like cow tipping.
uh, yeah, that's this actually the swan tipping might be more risky. So tip feeding is when a swan in the water tips forward to feed underwater and the legs are still visible above. Okay, so
You're right.
yeah. The birds were released at 88 days old. They will not grow all of their flight feathers and begin to fly until they are about 110 days old. The program raised 25 cygnets this summer, with 9 more to be released on the Teton. Oh, wow. Okay, so they released 27 of them. I wonder what the population originally was. Let's see, at least that they've reintroduced, with 9 more to be released on the Teton River next week, as well as 9 in Ennis, Montana. So this is probably in the most northern region of the Yellowstone National Park. According to the WWS website, is the only captive breeding program permitted to release swans in Yellowstone National Park due to rigorous genetic standards. So I'm guessing what's going on is that um, they are actually paying attention to the genetics occurring with these birds. So that's really good to hear, considering. And actually, with a lot of these captive programs with different animals, they did not have a very good look at their genetics, even though they had the ability to go in and figure out who's who. So, this is good to hear that we've got more swans coming into this part of Yellowstone, and they're going to be spreading them out throughout the ecosystem. So, let's put out the next article. Okay, so from Sci News, new species of extinct octodontoid rodent discovered from Amazonian fossil. So paleontologists have identified a new species of rodent in Acarichymus, an extinct genus with a widespread South American distribution from partial jaw and teeth and unearthed in Brazil. Oh, okay. I guess I forgot. It wasn't going to be a capybara-like animal. It's him. So this is Acarichymus hunuquini, lived in what is now Brazilian Amazonia around 10 million years ago during the end of the Miocene epoch. The ancient species belongs to Octodontoideae, a family of neotropical Hystricognathus rodents within the parv order Caviomorpha. So, yeah, when it comes to this parv order, this is going to be a bit new for me. So, Hystrigognathus rodents of the Neotrophic tropics, Caviomorpha are a fascinating mammal group because of their astonishing taxonomic and ecological diversity, which reflects a complex evolutionary history. Um, think it would just be their overall maybe species diversity, not so much ecological, because um, ecological refers to like the different soils, plants, animals, and fungi within the region, not necessarily like just specific species of a mammal. These rodents appear suddenly in the South American fossil record at the end of the Eocene epoch, at least from what we know from the available record, especially that of Peruvian Amazonia. By the early okay, so this is over towards like northwestern Brazil, at least like right on the northwestern corner. So let's see. By the early Oligocene, so this is somewhere around 33 to 34 million years ago, they had already diversified with the first representatives of the crown groups. Present day caviomorphs comprise 266 species, structured into two major clades and four superfamilies. Wow, okay, we're going really into depth here. Um, it's getting this, and I'm not being sarcastic. This is going to be fun. So, Erithicavoy grouping Cavoideae, the guinea pigs and related forms, and Erythizontoideae, New World porcupines, and Octokinkoloi with King Kiloideae, the chinchilla and Pacaranas, and Octodontoideae, the spiny rats and related forms. The superfamily Octodontoideae includes the extent families Aperocomidae, Echimidae, Octodontidae, and Cetinomidae, plus extinct lineages.
I wanted to test your pronunciation abilities.
Well, I think whoever was mentioning this probably reviewed beforehand, or which I've caught a lot of times. Um, unless their specialty is this specific area of mammalia, then it's possible they knew these specific families. But you're talking about 266 different species. It's hard to believe. Anyway, this is the richest and most diverse clade among Caviomorpha, both taxonomically and phenotypically through time. The dental remains of Acharochymus hunecunei were collected during field trips in 2019 and 2022 at the PRE06 outcrop of the Solomois Formation near the city of Faiho and or in the Brazilian state of Acre. Um, okay, it's good to hear. The Solomos Formation has yielded a great diversity of vertebrate fossils since the mid 19th century. Fossil bearing localities from this formation were recently dated, revealing maximum ages of uh, deposition within the Tortonian Upper Miocene epoch. So, mammals are among the most diverse fossils found there, including bats, cetaceans, lithoterns, marsupials, notungulates, primates, rodents, sirenians, and xenarthrans. In addition, fossil remains of birds, crocodilians, chelonians, fishes, amphibians, invertebrates, ichnofossils, and plants have also been documented. The discovery of Acarichymus Hunicoinae shows that several superfamilies of Caphiomorphous rodents coexisted in this region, in addition to many other animal groups, highlighting the existence of a rich fauna in the Brazilian Amazonia. Acarichymus possibly emerged during the late Oligocene, so this is around 25 to 27 million years ago, and diversified in the Patagonian region during the early Miocene. During the middle Miocene, it spread to extra Patagonian region. So we're talking about over in Argentina, towards the north of South America. So over towards like northern Brazil, Colombia, Venezuela. During the late Miocene, the lineage remained only in extra Patagonian regions. This new record, which is the last appearance of the genus, supports the hypothesis of the late survival of rodent lineages in the tropics, a pattern that has been documented in octodontoids, hydrocoronies, and nopibelmids. The rapid diversification radiation of Acrichimus, as well as the scarcity of data, divergence of opinions between studies dedicated to this group, and the many isolated teeth reported for the Amazonian region makes the research of this genus challenging. Further research is required to enhance our comprehension of the diversification, stop, use another word, and temporal variation of this broad lineage of Octodontoideae. But besides that, this is oh, Um, this is good to hear with what we found of this specific mammal, and as well, it's good to hear that this formation has a large variety of different species of rodents, especially like different types of New World porcupines, chinchillas. This is really good to hear. Possibly chinchillas.
So for anyone that's mind just melted, we'll go to something else now.
Okay, so yeah, let's put up the third article. So from AlaskaPublic.org, Baranof Island bears get first ever state count. Baranof Island. Where's this occurring? Guessing somewhere in the south. There's a wide variety of islands over in southern Alaska. So he's got a tag. Oh, he's got two tags on him.
That's pretty funny. You said somewhere in the South, and people are going, and you said Alaska.
Bear 309 was captured, tagged, and released on August 22nd, 2025. So, oh, maybe they tranked him and then let him loose. Oh, he's also got a collar. Okay, well, he's okay. Let's see. Biologists have launched the first ever state study of brown bear numbers on Sitka's Baranof Island. Managers say they need updated data to manage the population appropriately. Baranof Island is really big, about 1,600 square miles and larger than the state of Rhode Island. The brown bear population is currently managed using really old numbers based on populations from a different island, measured nearly 40 years ago. I think actually, I'm not sure if I've ever heard of this when it comes to estimating certain animal populations, especially where it's based on another population.
Weren't you
Um,
complaining about this a while ago, that saying that these counts are all old for
yeah,
different animals?
yeah. Um, there's quite a number of them, and yeah, definitely, yeah, 40 years ago, ish. So since '85. Stephanie Sell, a wildlife research biologist with the Alaska Department of Fish and Game, said there's never been a population estimate study completed on Baranof. Actually, I think I've heard of Baranof Island. I believe it's possibly close or adjacent to islands like Admiralty Island. So it's not far from Juneau in Southeast Alaska. So let's see. The management numbers that we're using for brown bears on Baranof were extrapolated from a project that happened on Northern Admiralty Island in the late 1980s and the early 1990s. Okay, I was right. There was a track study in the 1930s where researchers went up salmon streams to measure the widths of paw pads to determine how many animals were on the island. But modern research
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
techniques.
For people that didn't understand that, that meant that they went up looking at tracks in the dirt or mud.
Um, Yes.
That's what you just said, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
So, to determine how many animals were on the island, yeah, I've heard of this. It's really hard to. It's really hard to come up with an estimate of how many animals are somewhere in an area by that type of a technique. But modern research techniques invalidate it. Well, you're also basing it off of footprints. Based on the information they found on nearby Admiralty Island, located between Sitka and Juneau, Sell said researchers determined there was likely more suitable habitat on Baranof, meaning more bears. More bears than Admiralty Island? Unless the Admiralty Island recently has had a major drop in population, which would be kind of concerning, considering Admiralty Island has the densest population of brown bears in the world. You have an area where it's like half the size of Yellowstone National Park. Yellowstone's around 3,000 square miles. And Yellowstone has somewhere around 300 to 350 brown bears, whereas Admiralty Island has somewhere around 16 to 1,800. And they have salmon on all sides running through, whereas grizzly bears in Yellowstone, yeah, they have cutthroat trout. You occasionally like the invasive rainbow trout. There's a few other native species coming to places like Yellowstone Lake and the wide variety of streams in the park, but it's a lot harder to gain food sources.
What about Kodiak Island? How many are there?
Kodiak Island, though, is much larger, but Kodiak Island does have a population of 3,000 bears. But yeah, it's much larger. Let's see. But Cell said they really don't know how accurate that number is. And to be able to sustainably manage brown bears on the island, it's really important to have updated information. What we're trying to do is figure out what those numbers are. Cell estimates the study will take about 5 to 6 years to complete. Biologists recently wrapped a similar 6 year project near Haines and Skagway. Cell said ADF and G had been managing for a population of 400 bears in the area. The study led them to lower that estimate to just over 300. I don't know if it's going to be more or less on Baranof Island, but that's what this project is going to hopefully find out. The price tag on the study is still unknown, according to Cell, but they have a funding source. The Pittman Robertson Wildlife Restoration Act, which is supported by federal excise taxes on the sale of ammunition and firearms. Hmm. In early September, Sell and her assistant began capturing brown bears near Sika and putting GPS collars on them to learn more about their habitats and day to day movements. We use helicopters wherever we can to dart bears, and then it takes us about an hour to process the bears. I guess that sounds right. We also use foot snares in places where we won't run into people for safety reasons. And then the other method is free range darting, where we sit next to some sort of salmon stream or some sort of attractant where the bear is drawn in by some natural food source, and we just wait for bears to show up. Each of the 25 bears they aim to capture each year will wear a collar for up to 2 years. When they retrieve them, the researchers will then be able to look at that data and focus their efforts on the next part of the study, genetics. So once we get more spatial data and see where bears are moving across the island, we can start looking at where we're going to actually put genetic sampling detectors. We're going to start catching bear hair to increase our sample size. And that way we can use that information to determine how many animals are actually on that island. So this looks to be a male over here. So it's over on northern Baranof Island. Sells said Burma bears are generally really dark, almost resembling black bears. Yeah, it is interesting when you look at these bears over specifically in southeastern Alaska. For some reason, they have much darker fur pigment than other brown bear populations across like different parts of British Columbia, the Yukon. I mean, you could say Canada in general. Over in the like Rocky Mountains and Bitterroot ecosystem of Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, and then over in mainland Alaska. It's interesting. So let's see. They're also quite fat this time of year because of the island's healthy salmon runs. Something she said they didn't see everywhere else this year. Hmm, that's interesting. So there were certain areas, certain rivers were having better salmon runs, also with different species of salmon. It differs with the species as well. Like you're not going to have it where each year the pink salmon is going to run as well as, let's see, like the sockeye salmon in certain regions. So it differs by year. What we do know about Game Management Unit 4 bears is that they're genetically similar to polar bears. I've heard about this over in certain parts of Alaska, especially in also the southeastern region. They have quite a bit of polar bear DNA. They had refugia, which seems like since the last ice age. And so they're genetically different from mainland bears. I wonder how distinct though, because when you also look at the genetics of different populations, some are going to be much more closely related to like possibly some other mainland grizzly bear species as opposed to others, not just like specifically the polar bear. Refugia are geographical areas where a population, species, or community has survived environmental instabilities over long periods of time. As of Friday, Cell said biologists have put 20 colors on bears, 14 on females, and 6 on males. So let's see. It is interesting. I do look at how many of these animals, because it's mentioning here the hunting season. So I'll just say this real quick. So brown bear hunting season Sika starts on September 15th. Hunters are currently able to harvest 42 bears on Bear Enough. That's 4% of the estimated population. Sale said they hope to be done tagging for the season before that begins. Um, because like depending on how many are allowed to be taken down, it can have a dramatic impact on the population. Especially if it doesn't have a lot of genetic variety. But in this case, it sounds like they do. 4% seems, okay. But I've seen others where literally taking out 80 to 90% of the population. It's like, what, why? But anyway, later on in the study, she said they'll be reaching out to the community to see if anyone wants to volunteer by checking hair snares. Um, okay, so that's it. Well, besides that, I mean, I'm glad that these bears seem to have a pretty healthy population. Seems like this year, especially over on Baranof Island, at least in the northern region, the salmon runs are doing pretty well. But we don't know what specifically, like, or at least what species of salmon. But anyway, the bears seem healthy. It's a bit of a question as to why they have a darker pigment, though. I mean, yeah, he really does look almost black towards the bottom. So, moving forward from the Cowboy State Daily, hikers stunned when moose trots by at 13,000 feet in rare high altitude encounter. I'm guessing this probably occurred somewhere in Colorado, maybe some part of the northern regions of, well, it doesn't have to be the northern regions, just probably the western regions of Alberta or British Columbia. Let's take a look. Hikers high above timberline on Mount Sneffels in southwest Colorado were stunned when a moose trotted right by them at 13,000 feet. It's rare to see moose that high. Yeah, it's not that common. They're going to be hanging out, especially during the summer or even the early fall, which we're about to head in towards, like even the wetlands and the riparian regions. So where they have access to different wetland plants. Not so much at higher altitudes. It can occur, but it's a question as to why.
Wait, are you saying that what is the average elevation for a moose then?
Depends on where you are. If we're talking Colorado, That's a good question. I mean, they're going to be at the very like foothills or the lowlands of the different mountains. So they're going to be hanging out in these shallow valleys at least. So um I I don't know how to answer that because I don't know the approximate elevation of these different
You're saying it's by area.
yeah, it differs by area. Like what's the elevation of these marshlands over in Colorado? So, a steep bare slope at 13,000 feet is about the last place somebody might expect to see a moose, but one cruised right by some Colorado hikers there on September 6th. Wildlife biologists told Cowboy State Daily that such an encounter is a rarity, but when moose put their minds to it, they can travel amazing distances and end up in weird places. Okay, well, now it's hitting me a bit. You can find moose on average, especially during the summer, even places like Utah at over 8,000 feet in elevation. Like sometimes even higher, like somewhere between 9,000 to 11,000 feet, but 13,000 quite rare. Wildlife biologists told Cowboy State Daily that such encounters are rarity. Oh, dare I say that? Uh, Avid hiker Hunter Mycod of Colorado Springs caught video of the cow moose trotting down a narrow hiking trail through scree or loose rock above timberline, not far below the summit of Mount Sneffels. 14,153-foot peak in the San Juan Mountains of southwestern Colorado. He told Cowboy State Daily that he and his hiking companion saw the moose coming from a long way off. She seemed determined to get to where she was going, so they wisely decided to step off the trail and give her the right of way. They guessed that the cow moose might have been headed from one marshy area on the Telluride, Colorado. Okay, so yeah, she seems pretty healthy. Wow, it's a bare area. That's interesting. What
She
is
got
sh I wonder
lost or
what
just go
is
for a hike.
I wonder what is sh what, yeah, what she's doing over here. I mean, sometimes animals will just simply roam, but especially moose. Still quite odd, though. She's probably coming closer because she knows if people are over here, or at least she's assuming, then she will probably have better sure footing. And she is stumbling a little bit, but she'll be okay. Um, that's about it with that. Okay, well, yeah, that was interesting. So let's move on to the next article. I really was expecting a male though, and not a female. She also didn't have any calves with her, so that was interesting. So from Lehigh Pennsylvania's elk herd, once nearly wiped out, now a thriving wildlife attraction. Yeah, Pennsylvania, in recent years, their elk herds have been increasing dramatically. They also don't really have any predators in the region except for occasionally, you could say black bears over on calves, but when it comes to the adults, not so much. And then you have coyotes as well. So let's see. Um, Located about 4 hours northwest of Lehigh Valley, the largest free roaming elk herd in the northeastern United States lives across a roughly 1,000 square mile area, with Benezet and the surrounding portion of Elk County serving as the destination for those who want to see these animals. Each year, this region of north central Pennsylvania draws tens of thousands of visitors hoping to catch a glimpse of wild wapiti, another word for elk. This is especially true of the okay, you already know this, so let's get into it. So if this is over in Pennsylvania, which is possible, I mean, you have these fir trees in the region. Um, this is a really healthy elk, but this probably wasn't taken. I don't know. I mean, depending on when this article came out, maybe it was taken this year and he already shed his antlers. So let's see. Oh, so however, the Pennsylvania Game Commission undertook efforts to reintroduce the animal in several locations, so referring to Pennsylvania, including neighboring Carbon and Monroe counties. between 1913 and 1926 by bringing in Rocky Mountain elk from the west. So let's see. Um, okay. So over the decades, however, the state's elk population and range grew slowly, and today the elk herd spread across Elk, Cameron, Clinton, and Clearfield, and neighboring counties numbers more than 1,000 animals, making it a huge draw for tourists interested in wildlife viewing. If I thought that the Pennsylvania elk herd was much larger, I think it is quite a distance from like the Kentucky elk herds. I mean, there are over 12,000 elk over in eastern Kentucky. And let's see. Yeah, when it comes to West Virginia, there's a very small population. West Virginia is having a big problem, at least for years, with their elk herd. They reintroduced some, I believe, from Colorado, and they all ended up obtaining certain diseases, and it's ended up wiping out the herd for the most part. So that's too bad for them. But I mean, it's good to hear that they're increasing, but I thought there were many more. Let's see. So, for someone planning a trip to Elk County, the first stop needs to be the Keystone Elk Country Alliance Visitor Center. Sometimes when it refers to the visitor center, that's literally where you have to drive to in order to get to the rest of an area. So, according to KECA, more than 500,000 people annually visit the center. Wow, which is surrounded by 245 acres of land managed for elk. That's it. That just seems quite small. Let's see. So, is there any more? Oh, that's your view. Eh, you're not gonna see anything. Okay. Let's see. Is there anything else? Oh, okay. You might see some stuff with that. Is there? Yeah, but is that it? Is it just 1,000 individuals? Oh, he's collared. He looks healthy. But okay. I don't know what to say. I mean, it is the rut for the elk right now, so they're going to be constantly bugling. But it's probably going to be much shorter in this area due to just simply how few elk there are. Whereas in certain parts of Colorado, and Colorado has the largest elk population within the United States. I haven't looked into a population estimate recently, but at least in the prior years, last time I checked, there were over 200 and somewhere between 220 and 240,000 elk in Colorado alone. And that's why sometimes the rut can extend into early November. There aren't many bugles going on, but it will occur. Okay, so moving forward from lacredaonline.com. Alert in Florida. Authorities request urgent help to find the mysterious rainbow snake, missing since 2020 and on the brink of extinction. Oh, I see. He is very colorful. Hmm. So, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission has raised alarms and has requested citizen collaboration to find specimens of one of the most colorful snake species, the Pharynchea erytragrama. So, it's just the genus and species of the rainbow snake, more commonly known as the rainbow snake. We must go back to 2020 to talk about the last revival. So, the authorities are asking for collaboration to find and preserve this endangered species. It is a non venomous species that used to inhabit the panhandle, so northern Florida, and the northern part of the Florida peninsula, specifically in the St. Mary's and St. Johns rivers and Suwannee. The Florida Museum has also added that it can be found in springs and lakes and in Fish Eating Creek, Glades County, although there has been no record there since 1952. Oh, that's relieving. Uh, well, anyway, let's keep going. The Fish and Wildlife Research Institute explains that the main threats to this species include the decline of the American eel, its primary prey. Well, I didn't know the rainbow snake was preying on American eel. Any snake in general, in fact. Well, okay, I could probably see like anacondas back in or over in South America feeding on them. Maybe certain, well, different type of eel. Anyway, this
In
species,
Florida?
no, South America.
Does the snake exist there?
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt there's certain invasive anacondas, but
No, no, I
uh,
meant, does this snake exist in South?
oh,
Oh, you're talking about, I mean, the American eel. Does the American eel exist in South America?
over. I don't think so. I think it's too far south for that specific species. So this species is commonly confused with the red-bellied mud snake, Ferencia aberracura. Okay, this is Erythrograma, is this specific species. And the black swamp snake, Lyoditis pygae. It is? Well, okay, actually people can confuse snakes with each other. Therefore, in case somebody could probably confuse this with a garter snake. Anyway, therefore, in case you see one, authorities advise taking a picture as long as it is safe. Not to handle the animal, but what? You can just slither right off. Wait. Okay, we found him. Okay, could you give me a status? Well, he's gone now. Anyway, and to report the sighting using the FWC Reports app or on the official FWC website. Wait, do they not want you to call them? Uh, Rainbow snake is the common name for the non-venomous aquatic snake Ferencia atrigroma. It is a native species from the southeastern United States, specifically Florida. Yeah, when it comes to certain species of animal from the southeastern United States, you have to be careful because certain animals or even plants, fungi, they're only native to certain regions of the southeastern United States because you have to remember there's a wide variety of different types of ecosystems or ecoregions within the southeast. Now, if you're in like some part of like let's say eastern North Carolina or eastern South Carolina, especially on the coast, those ecoregions are pretty much the same. It's like when you're over in the coasts of New England, parts of like the coasts of, I believe, maybe what is it, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island. They're almost the same thing. Um,
I don't
even with
understand. If it's not venomous, why are they saying they don't want you to catch it for them?
I guess keep people from handling animals. Um, The problem is, like, doing that I understand partially what they're getting at, but these people, like, they're not planning to sell them or but the thing is, it's like, you don't want it where people are scared of these things. So, anyway, let's see. So, its appearance is truly striking as it has black or violet blue scales with iridescent reflections in the sun, 3 red stripes on its back, thought those were orange, and a chin with yellow scales and purple spots. Although a specimen of 173 centimeters, um, I don't know. Trying to convert that into inches has been recorded. Standard size is between 70 and 122 centimeters in length. That's yeah, that is a record. It is not dangerous, but when it feels threatened, it releases a musky odor by pressing the tip of its tail. That's a dangerous animal. The births of this species usually occur between the months of September and October. Okay, so it's occurring right now, with females laying between 10 and 52 eggs per season. Where is the rainbow snake commonly found? Records of specimens of this species, we have to remember it's pretty rare, located in the following areas in the Panhandle, in the northern part of the Florida Peninsula, the basin of the St. Mary, St. Johns, and Suwannee rivers, springs, brackish marshes, lakes, and cypress swamps, according to the Florida Museum. And yeah, Glades County, Fish Eating Creek. And then, yeah, they haven't been seen there since 1952. So yeah, it doesn't sound too good for this snake. Um, okay, that's it. Well, I hope people find him or any of them. And also, the American eel's been having a bit of a tough time. It sounds like due to Japan importing a lot of American eel, and that's why there's been a major drop in their population. We might not be able to use this because not we don't have the National Geographic thing. Yep, there we go. Also, this is a bit it's not relating to snakes, but when it comes to sharks over on the coasts of Florida, there's about 30 different species of sharks that inhabit the coastal regions of the state. So that's why some of their populations have been increasing. Great white shark, though, not so much. Though their sightings have been increasing, but because we've been seeing so many reports of sightings of certain animals that are rare to a region, like what we saw with the lynx recently, but it was the same individual. On the bright side, it was a young male. but yeah, nobody else. Anyway, so moving forward, dailygalaxy.com. Scientists discover a fossil so close to a spider, it's almost one, but not quite. It looks like a spider. Hmm. So, a fossilized arachnid discovered in eastern France is helping researchers untangle the evolutionary roots of modern spiders. The 305 million-year-old species. So, this is referring to the early Carboniferous period. Named Aidbanarkane barsiri, was revealed in a study published in Proceedings of the Royal Society B. Despite its strikingly spider like features, it falls just short of being a true spider. The fossil, now named Aidbanarkane, was found near Monteculus Mines, a site known for preserving fine details of life that existed over 300 million years ago. But for a long time, this specimen sat unexamined, boxed among others in the collections of the Museum National de Histoire. Oh, naturally in Paris. Is this is this found in France?
I don't know, but didn't you tell me this happens all the time? Where they
Oh,
box stuff up and they just don't look at it for 30 years?
well, it's not just prehistoric animals, it's also current animals as well. Like what we saw with the shrew way back, like a certain species of Vietnamese shrew. Anyway, but for a long time, this specimen sat oh, I already said that. It wasn't until researchers from the University of Manchester, Kansas, Imperial College London, and Berlin's Museum für Naturkunde revisited the collection that significance came to light. Using CT scanning, they peeled back the layers of rock surrounding the fossil, exposing intricate anatomical features hidden for millennia. When I first saw it, I was unsure what kind of arachnid it was. Okay, so this is an arachnid. It's just not specifically a type of spider because arachnids also have, they consist of other organisms, not just the spiders. The legs and entire front half of the body were buried in the rock. So the fossil revealed a creature just 1.5 centimeters long, equipped with 8 legs and powerful fangs, all hallmark traits of spiders. But there was one key difference: it lacked spinnerets, the tiny appendages spiders use to spin and manipulate silk. This absence placed Brachyri just outside the modern spider lineage. Yet it likely still produced silk, much like its earlier relative Atrocopus, a tailed arachnid that also lacked spinnerets. In those ancient times, silk may have been used not for webs, but for lining burrows or creating drag lines. So we're looking at an extinct lineage that split off the spider line sometime before 305 million years ago, and those two have evolved in parallel. He described the fossil as the most closely related thing we have to a spider that isn't a spider. So it sounds like this might have been a common ancestor. Huh. This is a weird individual. Demonstrating that a feature is generally absent is often more difficult than confirming that it exists. To make sure that the spironets hadn't simply degraded or been lost during the fossilization process, the researchers went beyond standard scanning methods. They used the diamond light source cyclotron in Oxfordshire, where high resolution X rays provide a much clearer view of the fossil's abdominal structure. You need a quite high resolution scan to be able to spot that distortion. The results left little doubt. The anatomical space where spinnerets should have been was smooth, undistorted, and intact. No holes, no damage, just a smooth exoskeleton suggesting the spinnerets had never existed in the first place. Curiously, the oldest known true spider was also found in the same fossil deposit. Huh. That creature did have spinnerets, meaning the two species coexisted, evolving similar traits but long parallel paths. Okay, so probably wasn't a common ancestor. Um, so they found both of these animals within the same late Carboniferous area. Interesting. So the species
Looks
name,
like a spider.
yeah, but yeah, due to those appendages being missing, it does look very similar. So honors the late Professor Martin Brissier, a distinguished paleobiologist from Oxford known for his work on early life. Bressier passed away in 2014, and this naming is both a scientific gesture and a personal one. He was a very supportive academic for evolutionary biologists. Idomona carne, oh wait, represents an important transitional form. It provides evidence from a stage in arachnid evolution where silk production has developed, but the structures needed for web spinning were not yet present. Interesting. So maybe they were making just large silk nests. I haven't spent too much time on spider behavior, but just they didn't have the ability to create those specific webs. So that's my guess, at least. It's good to hear, though. We found this interesting. Still, a bit of a question is like what specifically this type of creature is. So let's go to the next article. So, from the postgazette.com or the Pittsburgh Post Gazette, welcome back, Otter. Okay. Conservation efforts in Western Pennsylvania have led to the remarkable restoration of the river otter. I thought they were common over in Pennsylvania, but this is specifically saying the Western region. It means not only the return in numbers of one of the most delightful and popular of our native wildlife, but the significant improvement of our waterways in the last 50 years. Until the 19th century or the 1800s, native river otters lived in relatively healthy numbers along the banks of the Allegheny River. Okay, I've heard of this region. There's like the Allegheny National Forest, as well as every major river system in Pennsylvania. Centuries of hunting. Okay. So the last otter was reported in the Allegheny River since 1899. I thought they were here. With the exception of a few watersheds in the Poconos by the early 1900s. So let's see. Um, okay, I'm just trying to get to the current sightings. Okay, so they're a sign of a healthier landscape. Like the eagles that people see frequently now, they wouldn't be in the river if there weren't fish to eat. Efforts by the Game Commission to protect the otters through regulation in 1952. Something occurred in 1952 by closing otter trapping season did little to increase their population because it did not address the causes of the degradation of the river's ecosystems. Yeah, that is quite interesting. How little, like these different government organizations were doing to help the animal populations rise. I mean, obviously, if there's very few in the region, just by stopping the hunting season for these animals is not going to do very much. You need to reintroduce other individuals. Let's see. Oh, yeah, and restore the ecosystem. Like, how are the watersheds doing? Just the different water tributaries. It ultimately took legislation reducing pollution to recreate rivers otters could live in. For example, the Federal Service Mining Control and Reclamation Act forced coal mining companies to stop abandoning mines with no regards for the millions of gallons of toxic runoff they would create in the years and decades to come. Clean Water Act and other legislation further strengthened these protections. Soon, nonprofits and government agencies were funding and building water and drainage treatment systems, which little by little cleared the water. Hmm. By 1990, the conditions had proved enough that or had improved enough that researchers from the Wild Resource Conservation Program, the Game Commission, and Pennsylvania State University slowly began reintegration efforts, releasing river otters, the Lutra canadensis, in several watersheds, including Tionesta Creek, a tributary of the Allegheny, and the Eugenie River, a tributary of the Monongahela. The Allegheny Front reports that 35 years later, the reintegration program is a resounding success, with otters showing up in unexpected places, far from the original release points. While generations ago, these agile and popular animals indicated that human interventions had fouled Pennsylvania's river ecosystems, today they indicate the opposite. Human efforts can restore rivers and change from which we benefit even more than the otters. That's an interesting, positive ending. Usually it just stays negative. That was actually kind of nice. The problem is It's not was that it? Look, what didn't mention any sightings of the animals or, like, the population.
I didn't think when I picked that that's what it was going to be.
I was hoping, like,
I thought it was gonna be fun.
yeah, okay, they released them, and now what? Uh, that was unfortunate. Actually, that happens quite a bit. Like, something pops up with, supposedly a population rebound, and there isn't anything. Okay, well, moving forward from Denver7.com, Colorado's elk rut is in full swing as they battle and bugle for mates. Denver 7 has collected several of our favorite photos and videos from the 2025 elk rut in this story, plus one local's incredible experience. Let me guess, this is happening over in good old Estes Park. It could have happened over in, like, adjacent to Gunnison, Breckenridge, maybe somewhere adjacent to Rocky Mountain National Park. So let's see what occurred. Yeah, but I mean, well, we can, but volume. Oh, no. Let's keep going. Yeah, but it's got yeah. Anyway. So let's see. Um, anything else? No. Oh, this looks adjacent to possibly Colorado Springs, judging by that mountain face, as well as like the adjacent trees in the area. So he's got his own harem of females. This is really good. He's also a very healthy bull as well. He's got a very nice set of antlers. He could be like a 1,000 pounds, maybe even 1,100 pound individual.
He's just lingering behind everybody.
No, is that it? Anything else happen? Okay, so Lake Estes. Yep, it's over adjacent to Estes Park. I guess I forget how adjacent to. I think it's adjacent to like Rocky Mountain National Park, but this looks closer to. Yeah. Okay, it's Estes Park. Yeah. Okay,
Wait,
so any.
you were right based on looking at the mountain range?
Well, I'm trying to remember specifically. I think Estes Park is much further north than adjacent to Colorado Springs, but um, sometimes you have to review your mountain ranges, specifically like the scenery and the different plants. So entering meadow is prohibited from. Wow, they have it extended. So they have it for 2 months. That's interesting. I wasn't expecting that. Wow, so they actually give them time. I wonder if there have been certain years where well, I did mention earlier that elk, the rut can extend into early November, but definitely late October. Okay, so moving forward from KDVR News. So, yeah, another time, Churchill. Okay, so front range bear sightings increase as cold weather seasons approach. Jefferson County, Colorado. Residents along Colorado's Front Range can expect to see more bear activity as the hibernation season nears. So this is adjacent to like the foothills of Fort Collins, Denver, Colorado Springs, Pueblo. So let's see. Colorado Parks and Wildlife reports more than 3,000 bear encounters so far this year. That's not surprising for Colorado. They're consistently popping up. I mean, last time I checked, there were somewhere around 16 to 18,000 black bears within the state of Colorado, mostly inhabiting that's just mostly in the western portion of the state. The rest of the area is not preferable habitat. It's just open plains. I say Colorado has some of the largest amount of native grasslands, at least in the eastern region of the state, compared to probably any other state within the United States. Maybe I could be exaggerating that. Maybe compared to the Midwest, Montana and Wyoming still have a lot of native prairie. Okay, let's see. That number is expected to increase as bears now require more than 20,000 calories a day to prepare for the winter months. Whoa, what's going over here? Oh, he's trying to rob his pantry. Okay, so this is the period we call hyperphagia. And let's see. So Stuart Sauer tells Fox 131 he often sees bears twice a day at his Jefferson County home, but was shocked to see a huge bear pulling his 500-pound trailer toward an embankment. A bear has pulled the trailer down the hillside. Oh, he's I think this black bear is trying to he wants to do a remake for Over the Hedge. Except this time he's the raccoon or he's the bear and he hired a raccoon and all right, he knows enough's never enough, or at least with his buddy or a Pringle. Anyway, there was a trash can attached to it to keep the bear from pulling the trash can down the hillside, and it pulled them both down. CPW tells Fox 31 the bears prefer natural foods. Yeah. Well, I mean, technically, but they're going to take advantage of anything. But we'll eat just about anything they can find. They will ingest plastic, like sometimes, bottle caps. It's pretty insane. So food and garbage should be secured properly. Campsites. There have been certain, like supposed bear proof, um, sometimes the cans, but I was going to say the certain what are those called? Certain stands that you hang your food on or your trash so the bears can get to them. And then further south, you have it where they're slightly off the ground. The raccoon is just like, no, I can't reach it. But no, the bears like figured out how to get them down and they're not beyond their reach in some instances. Anyway, let's see. Anything else? We're really trying to encourage them to find their natural food source like choke cherries and berries and nuts. Oh, that's it? Oh. Oh, yeah, if you can find anything in your house, use an air horn or just pots and pans, bang those together. Yeah, sometimes that doesn't work. In some cases, like, anyway, that was funny. Hope you enjoyed this live stream. So from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guide Live Daily News. Remember to like, comment, subscribe if you love talking about animals, and share this show with everyone you know.